thoughts are about meeting the challenges of today while protecting our shared future. Please join me in welcoming Premier Ford back to the FNMPC conference.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Jake, for that introduction. It's wonderful to be here today, and I also want to thank you and Mark and the whole team for organizing this important conference and for hosting us here today. I also want to acknowledge all the First Nations leaders who are here from across our province, as well as all of our distinguished visitors from overseas. Welcome to the greatest jurisdiction in the world, and that's called Ontario. I'm a little biased when it comes to that. It's a real pleasure to be here alongside National Chief Cindy Woodhouse. I know I talked to the National Chief this morning. I think she had to get something done there, but she's just a wonderful leader and a great relationship we have, as well as Ontario Regional Chief Abraham Benedict. I'm not too sure where the Regional Chief is, but welcome. And of course, one of my champions is Minister Greg Rickford and all the other colleagues right across our great country. As instability and global conflict and tariffs disrupt supply chains and create economic uncertainty, we can't afford to be complacent. We can't accept the status quo. Now more than ever, it's crucial that we work together as governments, First Nations, businesses, and investors to build the major projects that will reduce our reliance on a single market and ensure that we're prepared for anything. We may not be able to control President Trump, but we can control the decisions we make right here in Ontario by building the most competitive, resilient, and self-reliant economy in the G7. As part of our plan to protect Ontario, we're working with Indigenous partners to invest more than ever on our $236 billion plan to build, which is the largest plan of its kind in Canadian history. We're building new rail lines, airports, and seaports so we can find new trading partners and rely less on old ones. Folks, I looked at the numbers the other day. Our goods, 74.5%, let's say 75%, get shipped down to the U.S. And as a business owner myself, I'd never want to put 75% all in the hands of one customer, if you want to call it one customer. As we move forward with our historic plan to build, we're ensuring that Indigenous communities share in the benefits of these projects and that we're making progress towards economic reconciliation. To support this goal, our government is providing $3.1 billion. I'm going to repeat that, $3.1 billion in loan guarantees. It's huge. It's never been done before, folks, to support Indigenous equity partnerships in major project developments. These partnerships mean that Indigenous communities aren't just consulted on these projects, but are brought on board as co-owners and beneficiaries. Ontario's growing nuclear sector is one example of how our government is successfully partnering with First Nations to make big projects happening. In February, we announced $250 million investment partnership between Bruce Power and Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, supported by Ontario's Indigenous Opportunities Program and the financing program, to increase production of life-saving medical isotopes at Bruce Power. And we're working closely with Williams Treaty's First Nations to build the first new large-scale nuclear site at Wesleyville, while providing opportunities for First Nations equity ownership. And folks, I'll tell you how important Wesleyville is. You know, Bruce Power is, if not the largest in the entire world, as they have Bruce A, Bruce B, they're building out Bruce C. We went down to New York State and we met Governor Hochul, really nice person. And she said, Premier, we're building out our energy by 1,000 megawatts. And I said, well, congratulations, Governor, that's fantastic. She goes, what are you building out? I said, well, we're adding 16,500 megawatts. And then after I picked her off the floor when we said 16,500, so I'm going to simplify this. This is how, I understand it. So let's just round it off to 16,000 megawatts. 16,000 megawatts equals powering 16 million homes. So we're thinking we don't need it for 16 million homes, but what we do need, we need the data centers that are massive when it comes to energy. They just take up massive energy. We need them for the data centers because when we build data centers, who comes along? The Microsofts of the world, the Googles, and everyone else starts flowing. And then for large companies and for the North in our mining that needs energy. And the balance, we can ship down to the U.S. I always differentiate folks between President Trump. I'll be very frank, I don't see eye to eye with the guy, so that's pretty common around the world. But I love the American people. And they roll out the red carpet when we're in Texas, and they were like, yeah, don't worry about the tariffs, they'll go away, and keep moving. So I always differentiate. And the Americans absolutely love Canadians. I'll tell you that I saw firsthand. I spent 20 years of my life down in our Chicago, New Jersey facilities, and they're just great people. And we will get through these tariffs. And of course, we're also working in close partnership with First Nations to unlock the Ring of Fire, which will add $22 billion and 70,000 jobs to Ontario's economy. And thanks to our partnerships with Webequie First Nation, Arrowland First Nation, and Martin Falls First Nation, shovels will be in the ground on the road to the Ring of Fire next month, with the work moving forward 5 years ahead of schedule. You know, folks, when I went down to Texas, and that's amazing. And it's thanks to those partnerships that's happening. And I just want to thank the chiefs. They were absolutely incredible. But we're in a global economic fight of our lives here. And when I went down to the States, you know, my saying now is move faster, quicker, immediate, because if not, they're going to eat our lunch. Down there, they get permits in 6 months to build these data centers, and they're ferociously vicious. But the good news is we walked away with $6 billion of investments from Texas. And I always say to Greg, our great minister, and does an incredible job for the First Nations communities, is nothing is better. You can get on the phone, you can get on the Zoom calls, but nothing's better than sitting across the table, looking at someone in the eyes and just talking to them and working through things. And that's how we ended up getting the $6 billion of investments here. And that goes for our great partners in the First Nations community. I bring them over to the house and we break bread. And as one of the chiefs said, no, we never broke bread, we broke pizza, but it's the same thing. I ordered the pizza, and you get to know people and build this relationship. And there's nothing better than building relationships with folks. So the roads to the Ring of Fire are an incredible example of the benefit of the Indigenous partnerships in major projects. Not only will we develop, have a good development of the region, bringing new jobs and opportunities, supporting First Nations members in their communities, it will also help First Nations access healthcare, education, food, fuel, and other services faster and more conveniently. And remember our conversation with our great chief up at Martin Falls. Man, this hits right at home, and because they're landlocked, right? They're a flying community. And people have no clue. The average folks here have no clue that you have to bring in diesel. You have to try to bring in food. Half the time it's frozen. These are the stories I'm hearing. And the young people, you know, they're stuck there. And if they want to go for the weekend, they got to hop on the plane and so on and so forth. So the chief told me, do you know who made my decision? And I said, who? He goes, about a community of about 400. He goes, we went in and sat down, and when I asked the young people, do you want a road coming in here? And the whole place erupted, started cheering. And so I got on a Zoom call, it was around Christmas time, and talked to them, and they were so excited. They're so excited because it's going to change their lives. It's going to bring education. It's going to bring proper health care. It's going to bring opportunities. And as simple as, and this is what we take for granted until you visit these communities, which you have. And I said, Chief, do you need a community center? He goes, well, we got a little one and we act as a storefront. There's, not a ton of food there. And I said, well, why don't we build a new community center? You want a hockey arena? Yeah, I'd love a hockey arena. That changes people's lives, that they can literally gather as a community, and if they want to go to wherever, I will say Thunder Bay, for example, they can literally hop in the car and get out of the community, spend a weekend somewhere, and then come back. That's what changes people's lives when we all work together. We're also seeing huge success in other businesses and infrastructure partnerships with First Nations, like building new energy transmission lines to meet rising demand for power in Northern Ontario. For these projects, First Nations will have access to Hydro One's equity partnership model, enabling up to 50% ownership of the lines by First Nations. Again, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, but the media's here. I want to preach to everyone else how important it is bringing a transmission line to a community that relies on diesel all year round. And if they run out of diesel, how do they get diesel? Right? These are things that people may not understand. And I was just so happy when we bring a transmission line in, bring electricity, upgrade the broadband, internet, proper cell service. It's amazing. And these are just a few examples of the work being done to support Indigenous partnerships and build a stronger Ontario and a stronger Canada. And I just want to thank all our partners across the great province of Ontario for making these projects possible, because it wouldn't happen without the collaboration and cooperation with our First Nations. And because when we build a stronger and more competitive and more resilient economy that can stand up to President Trump's tariffs and protect workers and communities from global instability, we all benefit. Our government, thank you. Thank you. Our government will keep working with Indigenous partners to get these projects built, and we'll continue working towards true economic reconciliation that creates jobs and economic opportunity for First Nations communities right across our province. Again, I'm so grateful, number one, for having me here, and number two, for collaborating and cooperating and partnering with the government, because when First Nations and government and businesses and investors all work together, folks, we're unstoppable around the world. We become an economic powerhouse around the world. So again, I'm very grateful. Thank you, and may God bless the people of Ontario. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great event.
There you have it. That was Doug Ford. Probably one of his better speeches. And there you have it. I hope you'll leave your comments, thoughts, conversations in the chat, and most of all, have a good morning. If you want, you please like, subscribe, follow, turn on those notifications. We'll be back. Bye-bye.